Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Wednesday. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you. And can watch the show as we stream on different platforms for you. Signing Day 2023, Part 1, early signing period. Nebraska closing like a freight train. Coach Rhule's first class. 27 additions, 4 walk-ons. We'll dive into a lot of it for you and enjoy the next couple of hours as Nebraska builds towards the future. You can watch the show on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, also on the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio. That's where you catch Coffee and Cream with Damon Benning and Andrew Rogers 7 to 9 mornings, along with the ESPN Lincoln Twitter handle at ESPN Lincoln and ESPN Lincoln Facebook. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio. Chris Schmidt at Herbalessence for Elijah Herbel. Elijah, you're still bundled up, man. You got the sweatshirt on, you've got the flannel coat going, and you're ready for the elements.
For the first time in forever, like I don't know how long it's been, this studio is actually cold. For once,
never
every single time I'm in here, yeah, I'm like I want to throw on like the tank top and like throw on the sunglasses. It feels like I'm on the beach. It's like 95 degrees in here, and for once I'm actually like getting a chill in here. So I got the coat on. I'm going to enjoy this day while it lasts, because as soon as I walk outside after this show, I know I'm going to be crying.
Well, you're built for November Big Ten football, and what Nebraska did today, as far as who they targeted, who they wanted, who they retained for the most part, looks good if you pair it with Matt Rhule's track record of identification, development, and that build on the line to scrimmage. Damon Benning going to be with us here in about 5 minutes or so. Excited to get his perspective on things as a great former Husker, a guy that's coached a long time in the prep ranks as well, and his insight always appreciated. So Damon will get us going here in a couple of minutes. In the 425 segment, a roundtable, Mike Babcock, Brady Oltmans' thoughts on the signing class. And then we'll head up to Pierre, South Dakota, and Jason Maciejczak, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, 6'3", 320. We'll check in with Jason around 4:40. 5 o'clock, some thoughts from Coach Rhule and his press conference. And then Coach John Gingery of Lincoln East. We've loved covering as much high school prep action as we have over the years, and Coach Gingery, one of our favorites. Coach Gingery will check in with us on Malachi Coleman's commitment to Nebraska today, and we'll round it out with Gunnar Gottula of Lincoln Southeast around 5:40. You can send your emails in, chris@hailvarsity.com. Matt hits it on the head with a lot of the feel and flavor. Homegrown, right? Homegrown O-line, homegrown defensive line, and 8 Nebraskans and 4 walk-ons making their way to Lincoln. Of course, Elvano from Westside, the tremendous kicker, Malachi Coleman. Nebraska winning the recruiting battle over Colorado for Malachi, and the who's who of the college football world wanting Malachi Coleman. You look at Mason Goldman, standout ball player from Gretna, Gunnar Gottula from Lincoln Southeast, Brock Knutson from out in Scotts Bluff. Those are impressive names. Maverick Noonan, he is such a talent out of Elkhorn South, defensive lineman, edge man to think about. And, of course, Sam Sledge, also O-lineman from that really proud program, talented program in Creighton Prep, just to name some of the Nebraskans. The walk-ons to highlight out of Elkhorn, Cole Ballard is a stud, Elkhorn South. So Cole is walking on Corver Dema, linebacker, gritty, tough ball player for the Dragons. Caden Erchmacher out of Bennington, Nebraska, played at Bell West. Just great frame for a tight end at 6'3", 250. And you have Grant Segrin. He's out of Oakland, Nebraska, Oakland Craig. He's an offensive lineman, a walk-on Nebraska, added at 6'6", 250. So that's your rundown of in-state. You have your scholarship and then your walk-on. And then as you break it down through the rest of the state, or states, I should say, Texas talent, 5 additions for Nebraska, either out of the high school ranks or via the portal. 3 from Florida, 3 from Pennsylvania, 1 from Cali, 1 from Illinois. Missouri is a state Nebraska needs to tap back into. They get 1 player out of Missouri, which is nice for the Big Red. 1 out of Oklahoma, and a linebacker we've all kind of been interested in, and that's Eric Fields. Some really impressive thoughts from Coach Rhule on Fields. 1 South Dakotan we'll be talking with Jason. 1 from Tennessee, 1 from Virginia. And the breakdown is you have 6 on the defensive line and then 3 on the offensive line, and then 2 right now they're trying to decide whether they play offensive line or defensive line. 3 linebackers, and Nebraska also needing to restack their wide receiver room. So 5 wide receivers as part of this 2023 class. Nebraska, if you're into rankings, able to move their way up, whether you look at 24/7 composite, on 3, 24/7 as a whole, or even ESPN, Nebraska in that 26 to 32 range, depending on where you look. And that's impressive. What's more impressive when you look at Matt Rhule's track record is not where the classes start per se, but where the classes end up. If you re-rank the recruiting classes, what was the hit rate, what was the retention rate, and more importantly, what was the development rate? Right? What was the development rate like for some of these players by the time they got to year 3 and year 4, Elijah? And that's where you look at some of the different articles that come out. If you're to re-rank some of the classes, Matt Rhule's classes may have ended in the 40s or 30s, but they end up in the 20s or the teens, and that translates to wins. That translates to some conference championship appearances, some conference championship wins, and dare I say, some New Year's Day Bowl appearances. But if you're a Nebraska fan, you got to love the grind that this staff and head coach put forth. But it wasn't empty. They got who they wanted. They got some flips. They got some portal additions that I think are going to be big. And also some more insight from Coach Rhule when it comes to the offensive line and defensive line, and even more so on his Coach White and what Nebraska is going to run. It's not necessarily going to be a 3-3-5. So pretty insightful presser, and the work well done by Rhule and his staff.
But I'd like to quickly make a point. I've seen a lot on Twitter today of people talking about how fast Nebraska shot up the recruiting board rankings and where Colorado's at compared to Nebraska and where Nebraska's at compared to the rest of the Big Ten. And let's make one thing clear. I mean, we said last week on this show, Schmidty, that recruiting rankings are fickle. That's no pun intended with Wisconsin, but it's a fickle beast, recruiting rankings, in terms of the fact that, you know what, you get a guy in Eric Fields, and sounds like Matt Rhule considers him to be one of the gems of this class, and he's not even ranked on recruiting services. He's not going to help that recruiting ranking whatsoever, and that's kind of the philosophy that Matt Rhule has here. So I don't think recruiting rankings are the most important thing to look at with Matt Rhule. It's kind of film and how guys fit into a program. But also, this is a first recruiting class that was built in 20-something days. So this one's going to be a lot more important to evaluate probably in 18 months or so and see how many of these guys are still around and how many of these guys contributed during either their freshman or their sophomore year. That's whenever you'll get to see what this recruiting class is, just because think back to the last couple of years, the attrition rate within Nebraska's recruiting classes has been huge, and that's going to be a trend that's going to continue into college football. So, yeah, you went and pulled out a borderline top 25 class this year in 25 days, which is really, really impressive. But also, let's make one thing clear, a top 25 class, if you lose 2 or 3 guys, could drop to a 45th ranked class. So it's about retaining these guys and fitting them into the program, not just being happy that they're here.
Well, and the big thing, too, is the reality of a transition class. When you have a transition class, what's the retention rate of that? And is it a class that's more misses than hits, right? If it's a transition class, what's fair as your coach coming in, as we welcome in Husker Standout, part of the Husker Network, did great work with the color commentary this football season, and longtime prep coach in Omaha, Damon Benning, joins us here on Hail Varsity. Damon, thanks for a few minutes today, man. I know you've been running around, you've been busy. What's your assessment here? Let's dive right in here. We were talking transition class, but quite a few scholarship additions and walk-ons. What's your assessment? What do you think?
Well, I think quietly they did a pretty good job. I'm a little surprised, actually, even though I say that knowing full well that they got off to a good start in terms of being organized, having a plan of attack, having things laid out the minute that they touched down, who they contacted, who they didn't, getting that junior day, that very next Sunday. And I'm still a little surprised, right? I think they quietly have tried to rebuild that defense on the fly, giving themselves some depth. They obviously still have to address the offensive line a little bit and probably add some more depth in the wide receiver room. But, gosh, I think if you ask me what I expected versus kind of where we ended up, I'm pretty impressed. Even though I understand some of their attributes as a staff full well, I'm still a little taken aback.
That's a great word, is impressed. And I think if you look at it and you know it, this is a tough ask. I mean, if we talk timing and putting a staff together and then reconnecting and holding on to some names, that's been big. Damon, you've seen in-state football, and you are a part of an incredible program with Westside. Speak to the in-state kids Nebraska was able to hold on to, not just from Westside, but just the 8 Nebraskans that got scholarships and their impact potentially on the program.
Yeah, I tell you what, I mean, between Gottula and Sledge, I'll start with the guys that were in the fold that they kind of had to maintain, right? Mm-hmm. That Sledge, Gottula, Malachi Coleman, Maverick Noonan. I may be missing one. I thought that was impressive. I talked to Maverick earlier this morning. They called him the very first day that they were on the job. He was at Lincoln East with Malachi Coleman. They had reached out to Benning Nagoai, who ended up going to Iowa State, but it wasn't due to lack of effort. Made sure that they had stopped at Lincoln Southeast to see Gunnar Gottula and let him know that he was wanted. The same with Brock Knudsen. So I felt like they came in already established and ready to go. It's not like he took the job on a Sunday and didn't know what he was doing on Monday, right? You knew that he had given it some thought because of how quickly they went to operate. And then let's talk about the two that they turned around almost out of nowhere. Iowa was really close to getting Tristan Albano. He had visited there in the summer and really liked it. Boston College made the late run with their official visits, and Nebraska really got back in good graces after kind of dropping the ball. He admitted that they hadn't shown much interest. And so to be authentic with him and kind of flip the script to get him back in the fold is fantastic, because he's about as safe of a surefire thing as there is in recruiting, and I mean that. Mm-hmm. That's with all the uber talented guys that he got. If you want a safe pick for a guy that's got a chance to function at a really high level out of this recruiting class, put your money on Tristan Albano. He's a winner. He's clutch, and he works at it. And then Jalen Lloyd with an almost unbelievable turn of events. If you know his family and his personality, extremely guarded, doesn't say much, very meticulous. They don't make rash decisions. And he had his top 4 ready to go on December 10th. He didn't feel well, which was absolutely the truth. I knew he had been sick for a couple of days, so they were worried about the commitment day at the Boys and Girls Club. An hour later, Nebraska offers, and all of a sudden they put the full court press on him. They give him the comps to who they think he can be like, who he can play like, he can visualize. He can see it unfold. They get him down for the junior day. Then he takes the unofficial visit. and he's blown away. You know, his dad said, and I quote, "I've never met people that have been that nice without knowing me, and we have been courted quite a bit." Right? So that's a guy that I think is, and his family. I mean, his wife, Jalen's mom, highly recruited track star coming out of high school before she attended the University of Nebraska, and so they'd know a smoke blower if they saw one. And remember, you're talking about Olympic level, and I'm not just saying that. I mean, the Times back that up. He's an Olympic caliber track athlete, and I think to get him to continue to follow his quiet dream of wanting to play football was nothing short of fantastic. So you look at the in-state hall, and I think it's really good. You know, I mean, they made the run and the pitch to Malachi Coleman, and say what you want about talent matching productivity. He was highly sought after, and he was highly thought of. And Colorado made their late run with their little woo factor and how it is that they're going to recruit. So I think having a plan and knowing how to go about their business, but having comps. Guys, like they're using real-life examples of similar player profiles of guys that they've developed to really give a tangible example of what young people can achieve coming out of high school. And I actually think it's that more than anything that has drawn this in-state class, which is highly talented, to Nebraska.
Damon, we're up against a hard break. Need 2 minutes on the other side. Can we do that?
Absolutely. I'll wait.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. Mike Babcock, Brady Oltmans. Shortly, Damon Benning with us here from Coffee and Cream. And at Damon Benning is where you find him on Twitter. Damon, we'll hold you over for one more, and thanks for hanging on. Player in portal or high school you're most excited about, and then tell me what's happening tomorrow morning, 7 to 9 on Coffee and Cream.
Yeah, it's tough. Right? I've thought about it.
You're like, next question, I can't tell you yet.
I think I'm going to go with Princewell, just because I think he's just raw enough to excite me about what's next in terms of development. But he's highly thought of, you know, and not that I'm a stars guy, because I've kind of seen how this process works, and it's not all it's cracked up to be. But as a 4-star guy that I think has a lot of upside, he intrigues me, and he's definitely at a position of need. Because I think if Nebraska wants to turn the corner defensively, they're going to have to get after the passer, and they need some natural pass rushers. And so he's a guy that I've got my eye on.
All right, manana 7 to 9. I'm sure it's a little bacon and eggs and some coffee and cream.
Yeah, we just try to take care of. We'll finish up a little recruiting and talk a little college basketball. See what's up next for Nebraska with some time off as they get Iowa coming out of the break. We'll talk the women's program, and the curious case of what's going on with the Blue Jays as they take on Butler. So that one will be interesting, weather permitting, and we'll be the best that we can to be entertaining and get you through to the holidays, I should say.
All right, Damon, thank you so much. Appreciate the time, man.
Anytime, you guys.
All right, there he is, Damon Benning with us on Hail Varsity. Coffee and Cream 7 to 9. Catch that on ESPN Lincoln, and also streaming on the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle. Brady Oltman is locked in his recruiting war room. Mike Babcock's in his Husker football den. Can watch that now on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Guys, it's signing day 2023. Is there any confetti that's just out of camera shot in your room, Mike, or Brady? Mike, I'll start with you.
Well, it's this way every year at recruiting time. You know, that's the thing. The world is as wide as you want it to be because nobody has played yet, but it's all anticipation. So I'm going to hold off from the confetti.
All right, Brady, you got at least some champagne?
I keep it on ice and on deck. I'm coming from the hallway on the 6th floor of Memorial Stadium right now, so it's just out of arm's reach at the moment.
Well, Brady, start with you. Impressions of the class, Mike, you follow, bud.
Well, my initial reactions to it are, really I think this coaching staff got everybody that they really invested a lot of time and energy into. I don't think there's really, Matt Rhule said that there are a couple guys they wish that they had, especially in-state guys, but I don't think that there's anybody that got out of arm's reach from them. And it's similar to what they did at Baylor. They attacked it aggressively, went after it, and then you just saw a flurry in the last couple of days of guys that come in, and I think it's a testament to their high energy and a testament to their aggression on the recruiting trail and what they want to do on the field.
Mike, your impressions, bud? Do we lose Mike? Hello, Mike. Mike, do we got you, bud? Hello?
Let's try this one more time. Mike, do you have us now?
Mike, do we have you now, bud?
I can see now. I saw some black screen and an arrow spinning around.
Now we got you. Thoughts on the class, bud?
Speed. I thought that the emphasis on speed was a significant thing. The thing that I liked most was 6 were listed as defensive linemen, 3 were listed as offensive linemen, and 2 were listed as either or. I think that's where, and his observation, a team that can control the line of scrimmage is a team that can be successful. That's what I liked about it.
So Brady Oltmans and Mike Babcock with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Brady, going to turn this question here to you. When you look at this crop of in-state kids, Matt Rhule said at the presser today, it's not everyone that they would have liked to get, but he thinks they had a good class anyway. And I want you to look at those list of guys. There's some guys that even 3 months ago, when you look at Jalen Lloyd and Tristan Alvano, that we weren't expecting. So whenever you look at this class as a whole, was it a good first step in the right direction, in your opinion, in terms of locking down the state's border? Still a lot of work to be done, but got some good talent as well.
Yeah, I think it's as good of a step as you could ask for. There were a couple of kids that flipped, or a couple of kids that I think their recruitment to Nebraska was just a step too far. May have been just timing-wise, because the recruiting process is a drawn-out one, and it's tough to ask a guy like Matt Rhule to come in and in 24 days, build those relationships and solve those issues. But as he pointed out, there's a lot of good, promising young talent, class of 24, class of 25, and a lot of young kids. And he laid it out. It's they want to build the format, and Nebraska has this, this history of in-state guys being successful here. They want to make sure that every 6th, 7th, and 8th grader in the state of Nebraska can look out of the field every single year and see that it can be done and that they can be successful and play at Nebraska. And he seems to certainly be on the right path of laying that groundwork.
Recruiting Roundtable, assessing the 2023 class, Hail Varsity Radio. Mike Babcock, Brady Oltmans, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt. Big thanks to Damon Benning for getting us kicked off. Mike, I want to go back to the offensive and defensive line play and comfort level. I know it's all smiles right now, but I guess comfort and confidence level with Rhule's history and commitment to both lines of scrimmage. He spent time on that a little bit ago with his presser.
Well, yeah, I think that's important. The other thing that I liked about what he said, and I should have mentioned this earlier, was that he didn't dismiss the guys that were already here, and particularly in the offensive line. He talked about how people have said that's been a problem. I probably been one of those people that said that, but he brought them into the picture as well. It was like, that's part of the important thing is that, we have some guys here, and it seemed like a development kind of thing and a system kind of a thing that they're going to fit into. So we're not just dismissing those guys, we're adding to.
Mike, the value and reality of in-state kids, why it's so important to not only foster those relationships, but develop the talent that is retained here.
Well, I think that you're talking about the Nebraska kid, the in-state kids,
yes.
Or you're just talking about the players in general?
In-state kids, why Nebraska needs to keep Nebraska kids here?
I think that's always been part of the Nebraska's tradition is, when Tom Osborne was the coach, and it's a whole different dynamic. College football has changed dramatically. And guys that maybe went under the radar a little bit in the past don't now. So it's more difficult because these guys are being recruited by many more schools than they would have been 25 years ago or 50 years ago or whatever the time frame is. So I think it's important that you emphasize that with the understanding that you're probably not going to get all the guys in state to stay here. But if you get the majority of those guys and you get the guys that fit the system as you want it to be, you're going to be successful. And we see this in this recruiting class is that you got, 8 guys from Nebraska. That's a good place to start. And you got 4 walk-ons already cleared and enrolled. So, and they're from Nebraska. So that's good. I mean, that has to be the core of your team at Nebraska, I think. And it appears that Rhule understands that. He said that's where they start.
Brady Oltmans and Mike Babcock here. It's a recruiting roundtable on Hail Varsity Radio. And Brady, going to pose this question to you. It's something I brought up back in our first segment, and that's attrition rate with this class. I think there's some attrition that's going to be expected whenever you're trying to build relationships over 25-ish days and try to build a recruiting class like that. And it's very impressive what Matt Rhule is able to accomplish. But what do you think is a reasonable attrition rate for this class? I don't think you're expecting all these guys to make it 4 or 5 years here.
No, I think you're going to really see the big differences in the coaching staffs and how they go about things. Now, keep in mind, last year, coming into the 2022 season, Scott Frost said that they brought in more portal guys than they typically like to. They were looking to add a handful, potentially several recruits every year from the portal, he figured at the time. Now, that number has kind of changed in Nebraska at time of recording, and right now, less than several, transfer portal arrivals. And Matt Rhule is big on the development and getting guys in and keeping them in the system. Now, he also said if a kid wants to play right away and stand out on their own and do that, they wish them well, because sometimes development is you stay in and you don't play in the first couple of years. So I think you're going to find out how many of these kids want to play right away and how many of them are bought into the Matt Rhule system and strictly believe enough in it to want to be around and not transfer out.
Guys, rapid fire, 90 seconds, and we got a punt. Thank you so much for squeezing today in. Portal name you're most excited about. Babbers, you first. Brady, you follow.
Portal name that I'm most excited about. Well, obviously quarterbacks, because you always talk about quarterbacks. I liked his discussion about Sims, and why he was looking. Described him as an NFL prospect. That right there is a positive. So that's probably the guy that I would pick out, which makes me probably the typical person because I go for the quarterback.
It's okay. Hey, Babbers, it's no shame here. Brady, how about you, bud?
I've thought about this quite a bit. I think Chief Borders is the one that stands out right away. I liked Collier in the secondary, but Chief has got that. His high school coach says he's very upbeat, very willing to kind of roll with the punches. I think that fits well with what he might see. He's athletic, fast, is able to kind of fit different dynamics in what they want to do at linebacker. So I think he might be a fan favorite in how he approaches life.
Well, and Schmidty, when he asks best name, I think Chief Borders got to be the best name among anyone in this class.
Get your subscription now, Hail Varsity Magazine, hailvarsity.com/subscribe.
Offer.
/offer. I will get it right. I'm holding it up. Great work by Babbers, by Brady, by Vogel, by Jacob, by Aaron, by the crew. Get your subscription today. Guys, thank you so much.
Brady has a great story in there.
Absolutely. Fellas, take care. Enjoy signing day. Thank you.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Signing day 2023. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel were presented by Currency. Can stream the show, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio. Watch that. And, of course, get caught up on recruiting tomorrow morning. Coffee and cream, 7 to 9 a.m. And ESPN Lincoln Twitter and ESPN Lincoln Facebook. Keep your comments coming in. We'll dive in to some of your comments in the 5 o'clock hour. Jordan's asking about Cornelius. His announcements tonight. A commit today out of South Dakota, out of Pierre, South Dakota, on the offensive line. Also did great work on the defensive line. We say hi to Jason Maciejczak, 6'3", 320 pounds. Jason, welcome into Hail Varsity Radio. Thanks for your time. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for your time. Take us through your day, your process, and I guess the emotion of the moment.
Hey, it was, I signed early. I wanted to get it over with and make sure that I was a Husker as fast as I could. So, it was a very, very surreal day, until I get there and actually get to wear the Husker gear. I don't feel like I'm a Husker because it's such a surreal moment, and how the events happen. It's crazy. So I'm just excited to be there, to get there, and yeah.
Jason, got some South Dakota fans that are Husker fans, I should say, listen to the show. I know one of them, Brennan, reached out to me today to make sure I had the right pronunciation for Pierre, South Dakota. And there's Husker fans that abound in South Dakota. I want to ask you about your upbringing. Were you a Husker fan growing up? What does that N on the side of the helmet mean to you?
Yeah, I wasn't a Husker fan, but that N on the side of the helmet, growing up in the Midwest and especially South Dakota and pretty close to Nebraska, and knowing a lot of Nebraska fans is, first of all, the tradition of the fans. 392, I think it is, consecutive sellouts, and I mean that's all you need to say is how loyal those fans are and how fun it is to play for them and play in front of them. Even when we're on the road, I know there's red in the stands, so the fans really make it a big deal, and then just the tradition of Husker football. I shouldn't say we, but they won championships back in the 90s, and we got to get back to that.
Well, Jason, you said we. I think you have the right to say we now that you have the name on the dotted line and you've sent that paperwork in. I think you have full right to say we now.
Yeah.
Jason, let's talk about your process. Jason Maciejczak, offensive, defensive line recruit out of South Dakota with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Tell us about your process with Nebraska, contact, connection, and then how things materialized for today.
Yeah, so last spring in about March, I took a junior day visit with the old staff. I went there, went through the tour and everything, and it all went well. And then this past summer, going into my senior season, I went to camp there. So I worked with Coach Rhule, and he, after the camp, everything went well. He said that he really wants me, and it just worked out that Coach Frost didn't give him, the opportunity to give me the opportunity for me to come play for the Cornhuskers, and it just didn't work out. So I swept it under the bed. I got an offer from UND 2 days before I went to that camp, and then a week later after that, I went to NDSU, didn't like it, and then I committed to UND. So, I mean, I thought I was going to North Dakota for about, June, July, August, September, October, November. 5 months now. So, you go from thinking that you're going to someplace for 5 months, and then I get a call at 8:30 at night from the new staff, and they say that, basically that the old staff messed up and we need you here to build back the program. So it was a lot of talks, a lot of emotional talks as far as calling UND and breaking them the news. And ultimately, I believe I made the right decision to come be a Husker.
What was it about your skill set that impressed Coach Rhule? What was it about Rhule that impressed you?
Yeah, Coach Rhule told me straight to my face. He said, he was an undersized guy when he played. His brother was, and his best friend was. So me being, even though I'm not the smallest guy, I'm short for Power 5 football. So he said he loved undersized guys that work hard, and that's what he loved about me. And he loved how I took coaching and how I, just handled myself at camp. And Coach Rhule, for me, he's one of the best in business, in my opinion. The way he coaches, his techniques, I love. They're definitely techniques from what I'm used to. But he's really a genuine guy and a nice guy, and so he's a great coach.
Jason, from watching you play just a little bit, you really do strike me as just an offensive lineman's offensive lineman. And in the official release today, from the University of Nebraska, you're listed as both an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman. But as I said, you strike me as an offensive line kind of guy. So tell me a little bit about the type of mentality that you play with and the type of mentality that's required to be an offensive lineman.
Yeah, you got to go out there and know that you're going to be more physical than the dude across from you. You can't go in with a mindset of, well, he's big, he's strong, he's fast. So, I gotta make sure I have this step down and then the next step down. I mean, you got to go in there, and your technique should be automatic, and you should not have to think about that. And you have to think about striking fast, being fast, and just being nasty. In modern college football, there's a lot of passing, a lot of RPOs, a lot of lateral movement, but I think still the O-line, especially interior O-line, I mean, you get down in that three-point stance, and you know that you got to be more nasty and physical than the guy across from you. So I go in with that mentality every play, and yeah.
Jason, we'll end it here, and thanks for your time, and congrats on your day. Where do you fit position-wise with Nebraska? Has that been decided?
Yeah, I'm going in as an interior offensive lineman. Both doors are open as far as offensive, defensive line. I talked to both coaches and both coordinators, and they both want me to play either side of the ball, depending what happens, whether I can play sooner there, whether my body's better for one or the other. So, it's good that both avenues are open.
But Jason, I know we said last up, but I got one more for you. The head of hair is beautiful. We only got about 30 seconds left here. There's no plans to cut that hair before you make it to college, correct?
Oh, no.
Oh, thank God.
Is this thing is this Hollywood flow we got going?
Well, we talked to Vokalek a couple days ago. This is much, much better hair. It's a beautiful, beautiful head of hair.
You're just throwing Travis Vokalek under the bus.
Hey, okay. Vokalek's got good hair, and this it's credit to Jason. I mean, his hair, it looks like it's taken years to grow.
Jason Maciejczak with us out of Pierce, South Dakota, part of the Nebraska recruiting class 2023. Jason, best wishes to you. Thanks for a few minutes with us today.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Good to hear from Jason Maciejczak, and both doors are open, but sounds like an interior guy on the line, and very insightful with just the connection he made with Coach Raiola. Coach Donnie's eye was on Maciejczak, and despite the transition, this is a guy that kind of stayed in his back pocket. We'll wind down hour one of our Signing Day 2023 special at Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com. Just try me. Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this first hour, Signing Day 2023 special, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And in hour one, if you're going to get caught up on the show with the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, subscribe, listen, like, rate Hail Varsity Radio. Do so. We appreciate that. But we'll have our conversation with Damon Benning posted, our roundtable with Brady Oltmans and Mike Babcock on today's class. We just got done chatting with Jason Maciejczak of South Dakota, another offensive line get for Nebraska, total of 8 Nebraskans. You look at that 500-mile radius, though. You have 8 from Nebraska. You have 1 from Missouri. Oklahoma's kind of borderline there. I think they got a good one, and we'll hear from Coach Rhule next hour on the Oklahoman linebacker, one from South Dakota we just told you about, and then a handful of walk-ons that'll make a difference as well.
I should note, you're talking about Eric Fields?
Yes, Eric Fields.
Ardmore, Oklahoma is 461 miles away.
So we just got in there.
500-mile radius, baby.
Look at that. Wonderful. And then they sprinkled in talent. Coming up in hour 2, we'll hear from Coach Rhule, some thoughts on the class. We'll dive into some of the portal acquisitions. We'll answer some of your questions. So if you have comments or questions, get into the StreamYard via the Hail Varsity YouTube channel or can jump on ESPN Lincoln Facebook, ESPN Lincoln Twitter, or the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio. Again, want to continue to promote the recruiting recap tomorrow morning with Coffee and Cream and Damon Benning and Andrew Rogers. That'll be 7 to 9 in the morning. Get the magazine, get the website, and the digital content that's been incredible. If you're a Nebraska fan, you want to take care of yourself or that family member that bleeds red, Big Red, that is, hailvarsity.com/offer.
It's in the scroll. If you're watching on the live stream,
and I'm waiting for the scroll to get here. It's my swing on a 3-2 fastball, way behind.
Yeah, that's where you get the magazine. It's monthly,
offer.
annual.
For the way it's been drilled into me has been subscribe, but it is /offer.
Yeah, so you can still go to /subscribe to subscribe, but you won't get the deals if you go to
the deal
#off or
the Santa deal. So
Schmidty, we've had a question of the day that I've been wanting to pose to you. Now we're up against a break here, but we've been asking everybody today, what's the name that stands out most to you? What's the name that you're most excited for? And I'm gonna pose the question to you. We spent a couple weeks talking recruiting here. What name jumps off that page to you as being a guy who could contribute early?
Oh, well, early, I mean,
or just your favorite name. That works too.
My favorite guy, like just upside and wow. I mean, I really dive into Coach Rhule and believe. All right, blind faith. I believe that he can do wonders with the offensive and defensive line. I also believe he's true to form with his love for linebacker play. So that's kind of the three position groups I'm checking in on. But I'm absolutely, from a local standpoint, because of his bloodlines, because of the family, Maverick Noonan is a guy that we've got to see play really high-level football. And I think he could be special. I think, and I'm going to give you 40 names here, but Knutson, I think, is nice with his mentality. Goldman, of course, could be good. And then Elvano, like Damon was talking about, that's nailed. So I gave you lots of answers. Hour 2 on the way. Coach Rhule, you'll hear from him.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
It's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Signing Day 2023, the early signing period, 27 additions for Nebraska and 4 walk-ons, scholarship walk-ons, a nice haul of 31 for the Big Red. Is this going to be different from a transition class that you've been used to and you've seen with Nebraska football, because it's been about transition every 4 or 5 years? Can Nebraska stabilize? We'll spend the next hour talking about that. We'll get some insight from longtime standout coach Lincoln East's own John Gingery, his reaction to Malachi Coleman's recruiting process and commitment to Nebraska today. Lincoln Southeast standout Gunnar Gottula, part of this 2023 class, will join us at 5:40. And if you want to submit some questions or chime in, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Numbers to dial up. But we started off the show with Damon Benning, Mike Babcock, Brady Oltmans, and then Jason Maciejczak, one of the offensive line recruits from South Dakota, the offensive line recruit from South Dakota. And I think the consensus is, and Matt hits on it pretty well here in our comments section. You're welcome to join us with the Hail Varsity YouTube channel or Twitter, ESPN Lincoln or Hail Varsity Radio with this signing day. I think Matt's right on. Pretty impressed with what Rhule did in 24 days. And he came in ready, armed, and pretty much organized, right? I mean, those are some key things on top of his hires' strengths, the communication that went into all of it. And Elijah, this is year 1. You still got to win on the field. You still got to develop on the practice field. But if you can take this moving forward, get the development that you've been able to get, and put some good lines of scrimmage together, and then just springboard this, things could flip and turn. And I'm not trying to sell Kool-Aid or lemonade or pump you up. I know it's the off season, but this is where you need to get back to if you're Nebraska, and that's winning on the line of scrimmage, which in turn wins ball games in the fourth quarter because you're beating the hell out of the other guy for 4 quarters. And you need to be able to do that in the Big Ten, and just find a way. And Rhule's message is it starts at home, and he lived that with, when you look at the breakdown, 8 Nebraskans, 5 Texans, 3 from Florida, 3 from Pennsylvania. But he has he has arms everywhere to go around the nation. But you focused in and did well. You lost Flores. And you lost Benny. And both those kids, good luck, man. Really, really high-level kids. Oklahoma State, Iowa State, 2 tremendous programs, so you're happy for them. But it was mentioned more than once in the press conference, we're not going to let this happen again with in-state prospects getting out.
Well, and it's the fact that it sounds like he actually has a plan and a vision and confidence in that plan and vision. That's what felt like such a fresh air of that press conference today to me was, I mean, you got back here and the first thing we said to each other was, man, that guy's good at what he does, when he gets up in front of the media. He's good at it, and I think that helps sell, but it's also the fact that he's getting up there and he's got a plan not just for Nebraska, but for recruiting and how he's going to make sure that he doesn't lose 2 kids from in-state again. It feels like he has all his boxes checked. It doesn't feel like there's a question that is going to surprise him when he gets up for a press conference because he's thought it all out. And that vision and that confidence is just such a change of pace from what we've seen over the past couple of years that it really does breed confidence in what he is doing within that football program. And I'd venture to say that even if this recruiting class didn't reach top 30 in the country, what Matt Rhule would have gone up there and said today would have sold me on the fact that, you know what, he knows what he's doing and he's got guys that fit his program, fit his vision. And obviously that remains to be seen on the field, but it seems like a vision that aligns with what Husker fans want from their football program.
It's got to translate. It's got to translate, and it'll take some time to do that, but you like the attack, and you like where they focused in. Matt chimes in, lots of homegrown O-line and defensive speed. That is your theme. You're fast. You're going to be fast. You're going to be physical, and there you go. That's what Matt Rhule teams are. And, most, and Matt chimes in again, most in-state recruits Nebraska signed since 1998, which was cool. So, listen, Nebraska still has to do it on the field. This is the question. We're wondering if there's another get out there for Nebraska. Jordan's asking off of YouTube, do we have a shot at Cornelius? How the hell do I say his first name?
I believe it's Johnny.
Huh?
Ajani, I believe.
Ajani, thank you. Good work. Mm-hmm. That's solid. That is so good. Ajani Cornelius. I know I'm supposed to professionally know that, but I had to ask the room, so I did. It's a battle because he's a multi-year starter that's good, and that's not real easy to get portal-wise. Speaking of portal, Nebraska did well, right? I mean, back in the day, from a JUCO standpoint, Nebraska would add specifics from a JUCO, a Terrell Farley, who is as good as it gets. Mike Babcock has a great feature on Terrell in the latest Hail Varsity magazine. But you look at Farley, Mike Rozier was a JUCO guy. Levante David, clearly incredible. Gomes, a JUCO guy. Mo Purify, a JUCO guy. I mean, you can name the hits that you got out of JUCO that are big.
And how college football has changed is now, I'd venture to say a guy like Cornelius, we were just talking about, coming from a school like Rhode Island and entering the transfer portal, that's almost the modern JUCO. In that,
totally,
that you're going to go develop at these younger schools. You know what? The big schools overlooked you for whatever reason coming out of high school, and you're going to go develop at these smaller colleges that are still very high-level football. You get that D1 type experience, even though it's against some lesser competition. You build up the confidence, you get some stuff on tape, and then you're going to make your move up and get 1 year or 2 years at a big Power 5 school. That is, to me, what feels like the new JUCO. And that's the route that a lot of schools are using to build their program quickly from, 10 years ago type since, where that was JUCO. You'd go down and get those guys that go get 2-3 years at a JUCO, bring them to your school, and they'd be ready pretty quickly. That's what the transfer portal is doing now from these schools like Rhode Island or name your smaller school.
Right, and you look at just some of the additions Nebraska's made in their wide receiver room. Typically, they've been guys that have transferred in. Now, JUCO, a difference can be a guy who's played a couple years, a lot of football in JUCO. It's not Power 5. In some instances, you're getting guys that maybe just contributed in on special teams or saw limited action from the portal. But portal-wise, I mean, Jeff Sims at quarterback, we'll hear about him in a moment. But, I mean, he's a guy that's played a lot of football and an NFL guy, so that's good. Josh Fleeks is a Baylor grad transfer. You get 2 from Florida that need to live up, or if you're a Nebraska fan, you want them to live up to their star potential. But yet Chief Borders, an edge guy that he has the frame and the physical attributes to go smoke a quarterback. You get him as well as Collier, the defensive back, the safety, I think at one point a 5-star guy. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, can you get them to live up to the hype and the billing? They have the talent, the speed, the athleticism, the attributes. The name, too, Elijah Judy.
Love Elijah Judy.
For getting him from A&M.
Love Elijah Judy. Right? He's a guy that did a lot of work on his body his first season at Texas A&M. I think he's going to be a lot more college ready now. He's a guy that needed to add a good amount of upper body strength. He's kind of naturally had a lot of leg strength. Judy's a guy I've looked into a lot because he's really intriguing to me.
Well, his first name.
First name Elijah, last name Judy. So you got me, first name, and then last name Denver Broncos wide receiver Judy. No relation, but it's a name that immediately stood off the page to me. And looking into him, he's a guy that previously in his career, before his first year at Texas A&M, was widely comped to a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence that just needed a lot of development. So think about what that guy does, a lot of speed from that defensive end position, and now he's up to 290, 300 pounds after a year at Texas A&M, and I think he's already pretty close to Big Ten ready.
Well, Matt Rhule, part of his press conference today, will get there now. Recruiting, it starts at home. Here's Coach Rhule, and he hammered that point home, something fierce about how he wants to do things at Nebraska.
I think you always start at home. You know, the key to long-term success is for every 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grader in the state of Nebraska to grow up, you know, dreaming of playing out here. You know, and so they have to see other kids just like them do that. And so as I went through this process of evaluating this job, if I would be a good fit here, I got to know these players. I watched them, and you know, I wanted the local kids to stay here and play here in Nebraska. So we got a lot of them. A couple we didn't get, but the ones that we got, they came for the right reasons. They wanted to be here, and you know, we can't take everybody, but the ones we got are definitely good enough, and they're going to fight for their university.
The reality is, and he's talking about that age demo, and they haven't seen a lot of success. They see the crowd, they see the support, they see the passion, they see the effort. You just haven't seen the results. And to be honest, it's, you know, you got to get that flipped sooner rather than later because you've been waiting a while. Mm-hmm. And the demo he talked about, they are tuned in and locked into other programs, and guess what? Other programs will and do find them if they grow up loving football. And a lot of times they've gotten away from Nebraska. They've not had a reason to come here because of the wins and losses.
And Matt Rhule, with his really next comment following up, that was talking about what's your plan moving forward here to lock down those state borders. You want to hear from that now?
Win, do it the right way. I mean, I was talking to one of the top 2024 recruits in the country. Obviously, I can't say their name, but top 2024 recruits in the country that, you know, is down in Texas, and everyone has a lock to go to one of the schools in Texas. And you know, we're having a conversation, and he's like, Coach, you don't remember me? I'm like, no. He's like, Coach, I came and saw 5 games of yours when I was in 8th grade, and this player who played for you was my cousin, and this play. So to me, the best thing that I can do and our staff can do is that every player that comes here and plays for us leaves here and says, you know what, like, that was awesome. I got developed, and they'll go back to their towns and they'll tell people, and they'll say, hey, you know what they're saying is true. It's right. You know, that's the best resume we have. That's our book of business. Is every high school coach says, hey, I want my guys to go there and play for that staff because they do things right. And so that and then win. You grow up and you want your best memories are coming up here and watching big games. And so the way you win, though, is just kind of handle it day to day. And so we'll get there. But it's important to me that the kids know that that's a possibility. And, we're not going to play games and, hey, you're good enough for a scholarship, but we really don't want to give you – we're going to give guys scholarships when they're good enough, and we're going to get them here and coach them.
More of a message here from Coach Rhule on recruiting in-state kids.
I just want to say this to the kids in Nebraska who didn't come, because there's some that we really liked. I wish them all the best. To the guys signed in Division II, Division III, playing college football is awesome. All we talk about now is all this other stuff. I mean, I coached at Albright College Division III. It was one of the best years of my life. So I'm excited for all the kids playing. But from Malachi to Gunnar to Brock to Maverick to all the guys to Tristan, we got to know a bunch of really cool kids in the state. I think it's going to be really fun moving forward.
One of those Sam Sledge shout-out is what
he had to throw it at the end
before he exited stage left. And we'll talk about Malachi Coleman and his upside with his high school coach, John Gingery, here in 5 minutes. But more on Malachi, because he's a key in-state prospect you really were wondering about. Is he going to the Colorado? Georgia liked him. USC. I mean, go through the names of the who's who. And Malachi, Michigan, right? I mean, Malachi's a dude. And more from Rhule here on what he likes about Malachi Coleman.
Well, the biggest thing about Malachi is I just kind of really like him. You know what I'm saying? It's not really to me about, once everybody gets here, the stars go away and you're all just guys on the team. But I just really like Malachi. I like his family. I love his sister. I love the people around him. I love the people over at school, people at Lincoln East, so... I wasn't a guy we recruited that I was like, boy, I don't know if I'm going to like this guy. Malachi's a really cool guy. He's obviously very talented, but he cares about others. You look at, you talk about NIL. I mean, he's donating things to foster care and to helping kids. And, he's just really special in that regard. So to me, if I say that, our job with our staff is to make sure we make these guys' lives better, I love the fact that Malachi's goal in his life is to help make other people's lives better. And that's way more important to me than the 10-3 that he runs, though I think that's pretty cool, too.
Elite speed is nice on the offensive or defensive side. Last thought here from Coach Rhule, and we'll check in with John Gingery. But we've heard in-state, and we've heard that emphasized. Portal is also maybe some sprinkles on top of the Sunday, and we'll see what Jeff Sims is about. Really talented kid out of Georgia Tech, Coach Rhule hit on.
Jeff Collins was the head coach at Georgia Tech. Jeff and I worked together at Albright College, then at Western Carolina years ago. Jeff replaced me as the head coach at Temple. So I first went to Baylor. I went and visited them, watched them practice. I go to the NFL. I have every Saturday off to watch games. I've watched a ton of Georgia Tech games. And I fell in love with Jeff, just as a player early on. He's dynamic. He's athletic. He's smart. He's big. He's got accuracy. He can throw from the pocket. So when he became available, when he went into the transfer portal, I was already sold on him, and I even had, I even had people in the NFL say, "Hey, you need to go get this guy." I mean, everyone recognizes he's an NFL talent, and you get to know him. His personality is elite. I mean, he's a really good person about the right things. His former coaches, they loved him, and so it was easy if it worked out, and we're grateful that he chose to come here.
He's a nice option to have, and that's some big praise, an NFL guy. Nebraska gets him. Coach John Gingery, Lincoln East. Up next, our recruiting review continues for 2023. It's Hail Varsity presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Our signing day special 2023 Hail Varsity Radio presented by Currency. Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and of course Hail Varsity YouTube channel. I've been told by my brother to smile while on camera, so I'm going to smile. I'm smiling because John Gingery joins us, legendary coach, Lincoln East. Coach, thanks for a few minutes. How are you?
I'm fine, Chris. How are you?
We're doing all right, and it's a special day for a lot of kids, and you've been a part of this for a number of years, with players going off to sign their name, to go play and continue their dream of playing football. Want to spend time and get your thoughts on Malachi Coleman, coach, and Malachi choosing Nebraska. This process, from your perspective, what's it been like for you and for Malachi, and finally this day happening?
Well, I think it's been a long process. I mean, I think with the coaching change and all the recruiting that's been going on, and all the press, I think all those things have factored in. It's been a long process.
Yeah, you talk about the long process, Coach, and have you seen it, the recruiting process as a whole, take a toll on Malachi? I mean, from initially committing to Nebraska, and then coaching change happens, and Matt Rhule comes in, he decommits, reevaluates his options. Dion makes a late push out at Colorado, and I'm sure it's just been topsy-turvy for Malachi. Have you seen that take any sort of toll on him, or has he taken it in stride?
Well, I think it's tough on anybody. All those things that you're making a big decision for the next 5-6 years. And I think it's going to take a toll on them, especially, with that change and you make the commitment and you're committed to the coaches that are already there, and then that kind of falls apart and then it reopens. And I think anytime that happens, it's, you see that happen all the time around the nation. That being said, I think Coach Rhule and his staff have done an outstanding job of just coming in and recruiting Nebraska kids. I think that's been the biggest part of that, which made that more a transition a lot more easy.
We talk a lot, and unfortunately for Nebraska fans, there's been a transition class every 4 or 5 years. I mean, that's just been the cycle, and eight Nebraska kids. Coach Gingery, you see a lot of coaches in your office. You've had a lot of your kids recruited at all levels, and speak a moment from football coach to football coach, your reaction to, I guess, the job that Coach Rhule and his staff did just being here less than a month.
Well, I think they hit the ground running. I mean, he was in our building right when he got here, and very personable, very open, understanding that their goal was 500-mile radius around Lincoln that's going to be Nebraska, and I think that hasn't happened for a while. And I've had a number of his assistants in the building as well. And, it's all about relationships. And you open those doors and you build those relationships and start building that trust. That's the biggest thing. That's been the biggest change is those guys have reached out and made connections.
It's Lincoln East coach John Gingery with us here on Hail Varsity Radio talking recruiting. Malachi Coleman, his decision he's going to be a Husker for the next couple of years. And Coach, back to Malachi Coleman and that late push from Matt Rhule. Did you know what kind of pitch Matt Rhule was making to Malachi Coleman? I know that Matt Rhule spoke today about NIL opportunities at Nebraska and his vision for the program. Do you know what his pitch was to Malachi here in the last couple of weeks?
Well, he talked about the NIL money, but he also talked about the homegrown kids and rebuilding this program from the ground up and investing in the future with freshmen, and doing it over an extended period of time. I don't think we've had that for a while. Especially with the COVID, a lot of schools went to the portal right away, and they weren't willing to invest in those kids for the next, 4 or 5 years. They wanted help immediately, and you still see that around the country. But I think he's done a good job of saying, hey, we're going to be here and we want to build around you guys. And I think that's one of the things that really jumped out to a lot of kids.
John Gingery, head coach Lincoln East, with us here, Hail Varsity Radio recruiting special, talking Malachi Coleman. So as you look at Malachi, 6'4", I know he's put on about 20 pounds. He's stronger. He's still got elite speed. Tell us what you see as you've seen Division I guys and they transition. Do you think he's catching the football, or do you think he's strip sacking the football?
Well, I think he's probably going to be catching the football. I think they want, one of the biggest things that coaches want is somebody who's going to stretch that defense. And when you're talking 10, 400-meter speed, that's elite. That's a class all by itself. And if you can take the top off of defenses, that changes everything. So I think that's probably where they see him right now. I can't say for sure, but that kind of speed just changes everything. So I think those things really factored into that.
Coach, how much influence do you think Malachi is going to have on where he ends up playing his football, whether it be offense or defensively at Nebraska? I know there's a couple different ways coaches go about it. Some are the my way or the highway type of coaches where you say, you know what, I think you're going to be great here and this is where you're going to play here, and if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. But some coaches do have a little give and take with the players, trying to discuss where they can agree upon that a guy is going to be great. So what is your take on that? Do you think Malachi is going to have any sort of say in where he's going to end up playing football?
Oh, I think he'll have input in that for sure. I think those coaches will make those type of decisions. I know they've recruited about 4 or 5 kids already that can help on offense, but I think they'll give him a test run and see if that's where he's going to fit. If that's not where he's going to fit, I'm sure they'll talk about that and make that decision later on as to where he can be. But the thing about Malachi is his speed is game changing. Mm-hmm. He gets outside, the kid's gone. And on defense, when he goes, he creates havoc just because of his speed coming off the edge. Those tackles really have to get out and get an angle on that kid to keep him off the quarterback. So I think it's a good situation for him on both sides of the ball, and I'm sure they'll find the best fit for him.
John Gingery is with us from Lincoln East. Coach Gingery, what do you think it means to have a guy like Malachi stay home?
Well, I think anytime you can keep kids in Nebraska here, it's from the old days, that's huge. The more kids you get to buy in, and it helps feed into the walk-on program as well, and you get those kids to stay, and those kids are going to stay. They're not going to jump and go someplace else. They're the ones that are homegrown, and they put people in the stands, and everybody likes to see that. So I think that's one of the things that if you keep those kids here, that's going to be just a bonus all the way around.
Coach, tell me a little bit about coaching Malachi the last few seasons. His story, of course, from being homeless and taking care of his sister, adoption, and then the way he's paid it forward to folks. I mean, really a mature young man. Your relationship with Malachi and just the growth you've seen from him.
Well, I think the trust is one of the biggest things, and you talk about the ways that they can contribute on offense and defense, and you try and utilize his skills and where he fits in with the rest of the program. All those things are factors. So the biggest thing is he's a pleaser. He wants to do well. He wants to be the person that contributes, that leads, that helps others. And those kids are pretty special. He's pretty special that way. So, yeah, and I'm going to miss him. I get him one more year in track. But it's been special to have a kid like that.
Coach, what are his goals in track this spring?
Well, I think he wants to beat a couple of records, and he wants to get after that. So that's one of the reasons why he stuck around. He wants to break those records in the 100 and possibly the 200. And there's good competition in the state. There's other good sprinters in the state, but that's one of the things that he wants to do. So he set that bar pretty high, and he wants to go after it.
Who's your co-pilot with us on the interview?
No, that's my 2-year-old grandson. That's my daughter's. I've got him right now. He's keeping me on my toes.
No, he's awesome. He's chiming in, and I love it.
He sounds really excited for Malachi.
He's just happy about football.
He's excited. He's a goer. He doesn't know what stop or slow down means.
Now, I've seen some baseball coaches around that focus on putting things in kids' left hands to work on left hands so they can become switch hitters later in life at the baseball level. Are you doing anything with the little guy right now to get him ready for a career in football?
How's his drive blocking?
Well, he'll be there long after I'm probably gone, so he's gonna have to make those decisions. So, and I'm kind of ambidextrous, both right and left-handed, and he's looking like he's going to be right-handed.
Spiral.
And he takes after my daughter. He's just going to be a little bit nasty, which will be good.
Future D lineman, love it, or maybe offensive lineman.
I like it.
He could be.
John Gingery with us, head coach, Lincoln East, Hail Varsity Radio, recruiting weekend. Coach, last thought. We'll let you get back to your grandson, and thanks for taking a few minutes. What was the feedback I guess you got or you heard about? What was Coach Prime and Boulder like? What was that experience like? What was relayed to you?
I think they loved it. I think he was genuine. I think he was very personable, and I can see where you put a person like that in that particular place, it's going to be huge. I mean, getting those people to buy in and they loved him. I mean, it was a great visit. So they had nothing but great things to say. So he did a great job with him.
Mm.
Coach, any big plans?
Ultimately, staying close to home and having connection, having his family and the support system here that he has, I think that all played into it as well.
Coach, any big plans for your snow day tomorrow before we get you out?
Pardon?
Any big plans for your snow day tomorrow before we get you out of here?
I'll probably push the snow, but it sounds like they're backing off the inches all the time. So, it's just about starting to cook. I'm going to have to get my all my recipes out and get them going for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So I'm going to be busy cooking.
What are we making?
Well, I guess we're going to start out with soups, and then from there it goes to the Christmas meal, and it goes to the ham and the baked potatoes or the potatoes and the green bean casserole, of course, and then you get the fruit dishes and everything else. So it's going to be a big show. I
will trade you some of Joe Mama's. That's my mom's prime rib for some of Coach Gingery's legendary ham. Do you accept that offer?
I'm probably up for that.
Well, we'll rendezvous on Friday. Coach, you take care. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you and your family. Thanks for a few minutes.
You bet. Merry Christmas, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. There he is, John Gingery, and his little grandson. Good insight on Malachi Coleman, his recruiting process, and Nebraska winning that battle against Colorado. Not done. More for the 2023 recruiting rewind here with Hail Varsity. Gunnar Gottula, another Lincoln product, standout Lincoln Southeast off to Nebraska. We'll hear from Gunnar next on Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
Go Knights.
Back with you, signing day 2023 with Hail Varsity Radio. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, offensive lineman from Lincoln Southeast, part of the 2023 class. Gunnar Gottula with us. Gunnar, congratulations, and thanks for giving us a few minutes on signing day 2023. Take us through your process, and I guess Nebraska and that transition with Rhule. What was your interaction like with the new coach?
I got to talk to him early on after he got the job, and I just liked everything that he was saying, and I really liked him as a coach and a person, and just obviously Coach Rhule, having that relationship with him, so it's just a great fit for me still.
Now, Gunnar, there's been a lot made in the past couple weeks about Donovan Rhule. Some people very happy with the hire, some people very unhappy with the hire based on play last season. I want to get your take on this. You're a guy who's known Donovan Rhule for a while, been recruited by Donovan for a while, and I want to dive into your relationship with him and why you're excited to go play for him.
I've built a great relationship with him since he got here. I mean, I just love the way he coaches and attacks the day every day and attacks the aspect of coaching that position and just his philosophies and all those different things. And I'm excited to be able to go play for him.
Gunnar, what is it about Coach Donnie's personality that connected with you? And give us a look, see if you could, for folks that just watch and aren't going to be a part of it.
He just coaches with a lot of passion and preaches like his players playing with a lot of passion and just playing hard 24/7 and having a purpose. So I think that's just the big thing that hit home for me, just wanting to play for a guy like that.
From a style standpoint, can you describe the offensive line style that you've had at Southeast and how that can fit in Lincoln with what Coach Rhule wants to do?
We run some similar plays, just like power or just zone schemes and things like that. So there will be new things I have to learn for sure. But, I was prepared well by my coaches at Southeast, Coach Ryan, Coach Gottula, to jump to that next level at Southeast.
Gunnar, tell me about your own personal play style and how he lines up with Donovan Rhule. We've watched you over the years here as Schmidty's done high school games. I've done high school games. We've all gotten the chance to see you, and you're always a guy who's played with a bit of a chip on your shoulder. Take me through that and just how you like to play the game.
I just like to take every play one at a time and play as hard as I can. Every play trying to, make that extra block downfield or make that extra play for another second to hopefully get that touchdown, and just playing hard and trying to win your matchup in every game.
Gunnar Gottula with us here, signing day 2023 on Hail Varsity Radio. Gunnar, let's talk about some of the peers that you're going to be coming into Nebraska with. And you've played a lot of ball at the high school level in Class A. You've played the Lincoln schools. You've played the Omaha schools. And just what's this in-state haul like? Some of the mates that are going to be going to Lincoln with you. Tell us about some of the other Nebraska kids that you've connected with and just your assessment overall of the talent that's coming into Lincoln.
I mean, just all of them, really. We all just have a great relationship with each other. And, I mean, just like pretty much all the in-state guys, we're all just, like, good buddies. And we talk a lot or text a lot. And we're just, like, if we're on a visit or something, we're always hanging out and talking or just always catching up with each other. So it's fun for sure.
Gunnar, take me back to early September. Elkhorn South was in town playing Lincoln Southeast, and you were matched up all game against Maverick Noonan, a guy who's about to be your teammate. Take me back to that game. What was it like going up against a guy, one of the best edge rushers in the state? It's a tall task, and I want you to take me through that game, what you were feeling, and how you feel like it's going to be to go play with Maverick at Nebraska.
It's just a great opportunity to be able to play against a player like that who's really good. He's very technically sound, so he gets the best out of you on every play. You can't just have one bad play because he'll take advantage of it because he's very technically sound and explosive. So just always having to be ready, and I think just being able to play against players like that is really good for me and just good for him and everybody.
Do you think you won the matchup that day?
I don't know. I'd say it's been pretty even over the years. He had a sack on me this year, but the last 2 years before he didn't. So he's got one on me in 3 years, but it's always a great matchup.
Gunnar, your skill set, your strengths, and then what do you need to improve on as you get to Nebraska? What are you coming in with that you're happy with, and the coaches like, and they've told you about, and then what are some areas as you transition to Big Ten football?
They like my versatility and athleticism to be able to play different positions in my frame, just being able to fit in a lot of different spots to be able to do a lot of different things. I think the big thing will just be getting used to the speed and the, I guess, strength of the new college level, just trying to get stronger and bigger, I'd say. Just building onto my frame and working hard, I'd say.
You mentioned a key word there, versatility, and to me that sounds a lot like what Coach Rhule and Nebraska football's going to be about, talent, developing that talent, and then putting that talent in the best spot to succeed. What has been told to you? What is foreseen for you from a position standpoint? Where do you fit on the line?
Coach Rhule hasn't really told me a set position that I'd play. He's talked about me playing both in like either meetings or just like talking to me and just going through drills and different things like that, like what you do. So I don't think I have a set position going in, but I think I'm probably either a tackle or guard, but I'd definitely be able to do either for sure on either side.
Gunnar, is there anyone you'd like to model your game after, whether it be a college guy or an NFL guy?
Yeah, that's hard. I don't know. I like Quentin Nelson on the Colts. I just like the way he plays. He just plays really hard. That's a good one. I think Trent Williams is really good. Just his ability in blocking in space, really, and that Shanahan scheme, that zone stuff they do. So those are two guys I like to watch.
And Gunnar, you've been around the game of football really your whole life. Quick personal story. I remember my senior year of high school was always little Gunnar hanging out on the sideline of practice at games. And and that's the thing. And then a couple years later, I go to a Southeast game and I go, that's Gunnar Gottula? No way. The kid's like 6'6" now. What happened to him? So I want you to take me through your childhood, always being around the game of football. You spent some time around some greats at Southeast, from Gerald Foster and Luke Gifford. And you got to see them compete every single day in practice. What was that like for you growing up? And I mean, simply put, you're a football guy. That's what you've always been. That's what you've always known.
Yeah, I'm really blessed for the opportunity to have a dad who was the coach, and just being able to grow up around the program and just see all those like great players before. Like when I was a kid, just like seeing Gerald Foster mess with me, or like when I was like a middle schooler at football camp getting knocked out by Isaac Gifford playing pickup. So I mean, it's just a fun experience, really. You know, it's being able to be around guys like that.
What did Isaac do to you?
So I was a 6th grader, and he was the 8th grader, and we're playing. It's called night ball. It's kind of I don't really know how to describe it. It's kind of like, I don't know, you can just forward pass, whatever. But anyways, I went up for a jump ball. I went up for a pass, and I thought it was just me there, and then he came out of nowhere and picked it off, and then just ran right into me and just knocked me down, and hurt pretty bad. So.
Fun memories we brought out here on the recruiting show. Last thought, Gunnar, what's this day and moment meant for you and your family?
Oh, it's just a special moment to be able to finally get it done and signed, and just really exciting for all of us.
Gunnar, continued success. Best to you and your family, and thanks for a few minutes today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, good show today. Thanks for all of your participation. Update Elijah on our dear friend Cornelius.
You want to try the first name?
No.
Ajani Cornelius picking Oregon today. He was down to Ohio State, Nebraska, Tennessee, Oregon. That was the Final Four, and he makes it official, pulls the Oregon hat off the table, and he'll be headed off to Oregon. Not going to be a Husker, which is, I think, a bit of a blow for some Husker fans, but based on what I heard from Matt Rhule today, I think this has been somewhat expected from him over the past couple weeks. And obviously, Nebraska gets the visit from Cornelius, but he will be in Oregon, Duck playing for Dan Lanning.
Let's hear from Matt Rhule one more time here when it comes to the line of scrimmage. Cut 8 here, and specifically that's his area of expertise and where he's going to hone in on.
The team that can control the line of scrimmage, whether it's run the ball and stop the run, or the ability to protect the quarterback and affect the quarterback, those teams win. And so, great quarterbacks usually are what makes teams, don't get me wrong, but a lot of that comes down to recruiting. I believe that you can develop guys up front on both sides of the ball, and so I care about all the players, and I'll go over and watch the DBs, but I certainly can't sit there and talk to them about their back pedal at an elite level. I can talk about O-line and D-line play, and I can talk about linebacker play. So I let my coaches coach. But I like to just kind of be around those guys. To me, it's just when you have a great O-line and D-line and they're the right guys, the whole vibe in the locker room's different. You have kind of that rugged team that you want. And, part of it for me is I don't think the ways that we won at Temple will help us win here. I don't think the ways that we won at Baylor will help us win here. I need to figure out how to win here. And the same core philosophies of this, there, but I've been outside and felt the wind a couple times. I walked out in the field yesterday when the turf was, when the college football playoff comes around in a couple of years, and there's some home games I think they're going to do. All right, let's invite some teams to come up here and play us. So building a team that can win. And those are the things I learned from Coach Belichick and Mike Lombardi. Build a team that can win in the environment that you're in. Play football differently, and so that's been important to me. I think the O-line, D-line will win in these conditions.
Ted asked what's everyone been saying, and I think the consensus is, wow, 24 days in this class, impressive. Kevin emails in to paraphrase. He says, pass the Kool-Aid, but he's going to spike it a little bit, which is fine. But more on that retention of Raiola. Can we squeeze it in?
Quickly.
All right.
Donovan was trained by Harry Heastand, whose brother-in-law, Pat Flaherty, I worked for at the Giants as the assistant O-line coach. And so when you get into O-line play, there's like 3 base philosophies, and they're very different. It's like the difference between driving on the right side and the left side of the road, and so I don't want to. They're all great. I don't want to coach people. I don't want an O-line coach that's over here, because I deeply care about what the offensive line looks like. And we interviewed several candidates, and we talked to several guys. And to Donovan's credit, we interviewed him. I said, "Hey, I'll let you know." He showed up every day to work. He worked. He was, he just kept being there. Half of life is just showing up. And I kind of liked his vibe, and I liked his energy. But most importantly, to me, he had been trained in the same system that I'm trained in, and I want us to play that way. And so it was just a natural fit. And he's a great guy. I got a chance to meet his wife. He had a wonderful family, and we're excited.
Well, enjoy it today. Get the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, The Recruiting Show. Catch Coffee and Cream tomorrow, 7 to 9 with Hail Varsity Radio. Talk to you at 4.